Welcome to Nonprofit Network, powered by Stokes Auction Group. We are a podcast focused on benefit auctions and fundraising events for the nonprofit community. We are a group of fundraising professionals that specialize in raising funds to improve communities of all sizes.
And here it is, episode 3.
Whoop!
Hey, welcome. We did it. Here we are, episode 3.
Here we are.
Can you believe it?
I can't believe it.
My name is Shelby Stokes. On the cast today we have longtime fundraising support specialist Kelly Schinfeld.
Kelly Schinfeld, thank you for joining us.
And accomplished auctioneer Mr. Paul Schinfeld is also here.
Oh, stop. You can leave the accomplished part out.
But nothing else.
The
Fine, I'll just edit
auctioneer
it back in
man. Very nice. A little cut
And it's okay
and
just to
paste.
refer to me as the queen.
The queen.
That's fine too.
Or the rose between two thorns, as you called it before.
Well, that's
That's good.
true.
You don't like
However,
that, or you
I
do
do
like
like
that?
that because it's true. However, I would think queen.
The queen
nice
between
ring to
two
it.
thorns? I don't think that
Queen.
works anymore.
Queen.
I don't think you've broken the analogy.
All
It
right.
no longer
Anyway,
works.
I'm just here with these two knuckleheads.
Are you? Here we are. It's almost the end of February. It's mid-February.
Is it
Yeah.
already?
I mean, March is right around the corner, which is normally the kickoff of fundraising season. We've always had, a busy February as well, but March is really gets crazy, and it seems like people are ramping up to go back.
It does. I'm excited. I'm excited.
That's very convincing. That's very convincing
I know.
for you to say.
Here's the thing.
I'm
People have been waiting. People have been waiting, and
I'm
now we're going to. I'm
excited.
super excited.
I'm super excited.
Thank you, friends, for starting your auction.
Wow, we should just have you set the tone every week.
Anyway, Debbie Downer.
You're like the sad character from
I am.
Inside Out, that
Yeah.
Pixar movie.
I wonder where you heard that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway.
I have kids. We watch movies.
Yeah. But I am excited. I'm excited for the organizations, for being bold and deciding to go out there and get this thing started again, no matter what it takes, no matter what the barriers. They're doing it.
Yeah,
I'm
and speaking
proud
of
that.
no matter what it takes, last week's episode, we had a little bit of technical issues.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but since you did.
Yeah, so last week we recorded this for the video version with no green screen image whatsoever, and it was basically us in front of a green sheet.
And that's Shelby's description of it. Let me tell you what truly happened.
Ruh-roh.
We did the show, and then all of a sudden, Paul looks over at Shelby and says, "Hey, Shelby, did we touch that button?" And Shelby says, "Oh, I think we did." And he goes around back and he goes, "You want the good news or the bad news?" And I said the bad news, and he goes, "We didn't touch the button." So they superimposed what you saw in episode 2. It was real. I was very impressed because they got the campus of University of Washington and they superimposed it
Right?
onto the green screen.
Whoa.
It was like
Superimpose.
watching
Technology.
robots at
It was
work.
like a
Amazing.
superhero power. It's pretty sweet. Just
Oh,
plug and play.
super amazing.
Yeah, for sure. And we also had audio issues last week, so if you listen to that, we apologize. We're trying to dial them in this week, and if this week we're not any closer, we're going to just get new microphones and call that the solution.
absolutely.
We're going to try through
Yeah, we're going to try it 3 or 4 times. I myself am just along for the ride.
So if you're watching the video version or you watched at any point, you knew last week we were in front of the UW campus because of our fundraising event. So tit for tat, this week we're at a different campus.
Go Cougs!
We are Cougars today. We are Cougs today.
Go Cougs!
That's another Cougar first down.
Right, now we got the other half of Washington saying, hey, these guys are all right. They're
Yeah.
kind of Cougar fans.
We're Cougars at heart, let's be real.
Yeah, Cougars.
I am. I graduated from WSU.
I am, because I helped pay for probably one wing of the school. So.
Exactly. Is it one wing for the school?
Oh, we had a couple kids that went there, so yeah.
This is true. Yeah, that's why they set you up with the trailer every time you go to tailgate, right?
Yeah, that's for sure.
And a nice wing it is.
Nice wing it is. Shag carpet, from what I understand.
Ooh. Only the best. Only the best.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've been dealing with some technical issues, but it's all good. We're rolling with it. We're putting stuff out anyway, so you're out there listening to it. Thank you. Thank you very much. I saw that somebody reviewed our podcast on Apple.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And what did we get?
So if the mysterious Mimi is out there, we'd like to thank you for the 5-star review. It does mean quite a bit to us. So
she happens
thank you.
to be a cougar.
She does. Is she a cougar?
She did. She didn't. She quit 2 years.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
Go Cougs. So if you're a Coug, 5-star review, please.
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 And thank you, before we get started with some meat and potatoes, I wanted to thank everybody for responding about the toilet paper. That was a big thing. And so what we basically have found out through all of the input was that women are primarily over and men would be under.
Oh, is that right?
Primarily.
It's a male-male.
It's a male-female thing, I believe. He's checking, and I'm telling you, I believe that to be the case.
I personally like to take the toilet paper and then rip it up into squares, like premeditatively, and then stack them next to the toilet.
Premeditatively, that is planning ahead right
That's
there.
right.
Just in case.
That's time saving.
Just in case.
Okay.
You're welcome. Every dollar counts, ladies and gentlemen. Every dollar counts. So let's review what we discussed last week. Last week we covered breaking the holding pattern, because we know of many organizations that are like, what do we do? Do we, don't we? Do we move forward with the event? Do we not? How do we do it? And you know what? There's a couple of things that we kind of talked about last week that said just jump in. Like, do something. Like, be productive in some way, shape, or form.
Anything is better than nothing, and we see that people are doing that. And so that's very exciting. We're getting on airplanes again.
You guys are booking airfare?
We're booking airfare. Yep.
Amber was on the phone today booking car rentals today. It's like,
it's happening.
Normalcy is coming
It's
back.
happening. Apparently, we might be having some mask mandates drop today.
Yeah, that's word on the street.
I
mean,
know. Who knows?
You didn't hear it here first unless something was said.
True.
Yes,
And then you heard it here first.
I mean,
If that's not the case, we didn't say a word.
We're making the official announcement here before Jay.
Official map.
That's right.
Here's the Stokes Auction Group removing the mask.
That's right. We're trendsetters.
We are trendsetters.
I don't care what you say.
Though we still hold true the original stuff. That's why we have our old classic mugs, which are the old logo, and so just thought I'd point that out.
You know what? Before we move on, I have one more thing that I kind of want to talk about, and it's the Super Bowl. Like, it went down.
It did.
And now I've realized that, like, the 90s kids are officially the demographic that people are going for. Like,
right?
Eminem did the Super Bowl halftime show.
Yeah.
And we saw somebody at our party get absolutely giddy over the fact that his 90s Eminem or his 90s rap stars were on the television.
Yeah, and you know what? Everyone enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I still think Janet Jackson and JT were the best.
I mean, it's hard to beat JT, and Janet's obviously amazing as well. Which, by the way, the best Jackson, you think it's Janet.
I do.
See, I think you're crazy. I think it's Michael. Michael changed the game.
I mean,
I hate to gang up on you here, Sissy, but I'm going to have to go side with Shelby.
I'm sure you guys will. And you know what? I think Janet is just a underappreciated person.
It's Miss Jackson if you're nasty.
It's Miss Jackson if you're nasty.
That's right. Nice. Now that was the hit. Okay, so enough about Super Bowl, enough about last week. Let's move into this week's topic, which is all about MCs. We've had a couple of our organizations that we're partnering with ask us about what we look for in an MC or Master of Ceremonies. And that's what we're going to discuss today. There's a couple of different MCs that you can have help conduct your event or move things along. So we're going to talk about best practices, the ins and outs, and the overall opinions that we have on MCs.
So what is an MC?
Yeah.
I got the Google right in front of me.
You do have the Google in front of you.
He did bring his computer again, guys.
Pretty sure everybody knows what an MC is, but just to reiterate, it's a person who acts as a host for a program or entertainment.
Oh.
Right? So it's essentially your host.
Okay, so the Master of Ceremonies is the
It's
guy
like the ringleader
or
at
gal.
the circus.
Yeah.
The circus ringleader. There it is.
Yeah.
So how do you choose the right one?
How do you choose the right one?
Why do I need one?
Why do you need one?
Why do you need one? How do you choose the right one? These are great
need
questions.
one because somebody has to manage this fundraising event to some extent, or whatever your program is going to be. I think there's two ways of thinking. One can be a professional MC, someone that you can hire from off the street, not off the street, but somebody within the community.
I mean, you could, but there's no guarantee what you're going to get. If they have a sign that says, "Will work for food," I would not recommend them be your MC.
But think about it. The guy flipping the sign in the corner is pretty darn entertaining.
Would be a good MC.
Right?
MC.
Just give them a boom stand and we're good to go. Flip that thing around, break some things. So the first option is a professional. And if you're looking for a professional, I suggest you really think about who you're going to hire and what their claim to fame or skill set is, right? And there's a lot of people that are out there that are like motivational speakers, right? Like, I'm going to go to corporate events and speak about what I do. Now, a lot of times when we see those individuals in like a fundraising capacity, they can be a little too long-winded in my experience. Like, they have their shtick, they come up and they try to just essentially do what they've done, which is motivate people to work harder and do better, right? But that's not always what you want in like a cocktail party type environment, right?
Yeah, and I think I'd go backwards a little bit on what a master of ceremonies, what you have to decide what you want that master of ceremonies to look like. So, and I don't mean tall or short. I mean, you have to decide, do you want that person actually running your show that night or not? Because 9 times out of 10, that's not what they're going to do. Your MC is somebody that is going to announce the next speaker that's coming up. They're going to talk about a video that's coming up. They're going to talk about entertainment. They're going to work alongside the auction team, the auctioneer and the bid spotters to describe the object or the items and things of that nature. I think if you give an MC too much control, there's where your problem lies. If you are saying you're going to run the show, boy howdy, you better look out because they're going to take off with that. I think that there is a super large amount of training that you should have with your MC. I really do, whether they're professional or a volunteer. And I think it's worth a meeting prior to your event, not just night of.
I think it's far in advance too. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, best case
way far in
scenario,
advance.
you get somebody that is on your team that is either professional or volunteer that is bought in to the goal that that event does well, right? And that's one thing that we see with the Master of Ceremonies is they are essentially the manager of the timeline, right? They are managing the timeline. So in my example, if you bring in that professional who's a motivational speaker and all of a sudden you should be focusing on raising money for ABC School and he's talking about how best to use ad dollars in a business, you're missing the mark, right? That person, whoever that is, has to be able to take the charge and lead that organization and that night to focus on what you want them to focus on. So back to your point, talk with them early and talk with them often about what the goal is that night.
And as an auctioneer, what do you think about the MC and the auctioneer and the ringman or bid spotters being one cohesive thing when the auction actually starts? Sometimes we get time with them to really, they're a part of the meeting. Sometimes they show up 15 minutes before show, and you're kind of a little bit, thrown off by that. So what would you say is the best way to train your MC? If it's a hired MC, they're going to come with skill.
Sure.
Right, so let's
But you
move,
still have to train them.
Let's move away from professional and now talk about volunteer, right?
Okay.
You have to work with a volunteer MC. What's the first thing you do?
Well, if I could just back up a little bit, I think as far as the organization trying to decide what person they want to play this role outside of a professional, I think you have to consider that person's personality first of all. The last thing that you need is an egotistical person on the stage who wants to turn the show all about them. Right? Because it's not all about them, obviously. It's about your mission. So I think that should be number one.
Right.
Is what type of personality is this person? If I could use an example, I do this event, and I've been doing it for probably 12 or 13 years, where we use, it's a special needs school, and we use a parent. And you talk about a person who understands the ins and outs of this school, I'll call it ABC School, because their child is going there every day. They know the teacher, they know the principal, they know all the staff. You talk about a person that can get up there and speak from the heart about, we take little Karen to school every year or every day, and we see, Mrs. Jones there. She's one of the teachers, and just being in the environment, that person can speak from the heart so well about your organization because they live it. They live it all the time. And this particular gentleman, which is why I think it's important to consider a personality, it's not about him or her, whatever the case. It's about the message. And that person can speak that message so very, very well. To answer your question specifically, I think it does require time prior to the auction. Personally, myself, a week of. pick up the phone. Hey, Dave, this is Paul. I'm your auctioneer. Hey, let's have a quick conversation. We understand each other's expectations. Communication is always going to be the very, very best thing to ensure your success, being able to work with this individual. And, and if things, kind of get out of hand, there's got to be a point at which either you as the auctioneer or the auction chair can pull that person back and say, hey, that's not what we expect.
And see,
right?
I think...
And it's okay to do that.
Yeah.
But I think picking the right individual in the first place is the best place to start.
But I think that's like the big blockade, right? Is because a lot of these organizations are tasked with, okay, I need to find an MC, I need to find the right person. Oh my gosh, who is it? Who is it? Who is it? And the truth is, you're not going to find that perfect person. Period. End of story. So, I mean, how do they go about training that individual? I think you go about goal at the end of the night. What is the goal of the night? Is it to get together, have some laughs, and move on? For the majority of the time, it will be. Is it about to really dig deep into the mission and have it less of a ha-ha, roo-ha-ha? Then you got to take that into consideration with the person you choose, right?
This all goes back to that one strong word, expectation. You have to lay out your expectations to your MC well before the night. You also have to let them know, let's say if it was me and my husband, we've worked together so many years now that it is known that he tells the MC, hey, if Kelly passes you a sticky note, it might say speed up, slow down, and you lift them up early. So talk to your volunteer. Let's say you're not hiring professional ringmen and an auctioneer. Talk to your volunteers and say, go pump up that MC, But try to keep that MC, to be honest with you, away from your auctioneer, because you guys are busy selling stuff. It's kind of the job of the ringman or bid spotter to say, hey, you're doing great. Hey, we got to speed it up. But it's also your job, in my opinion, to say, take that highlighter, and maybe if you have the time, their script should look different than anybody else's. So their script, if you have the time, if you don't, take the script that everybody else is looking on and highlight the night before what you want them to say. Because everybody out there has a book or a pamphlet that shows what the item is and what is in it, right? So we don't need to word read. That's what the biggest thing with MCs that drives me crazy.
Oh, don't read word for word.
Don't read word for word, and tell them that at the very beginning and highlight it for them so that you say, just hit this point, this point, this point, and then bring levity to it and say, you know what, it's in your book, look in your book, and then really encourage that back and forth to happen, And what if they're a boozer? What do you do then?
Well,
oh boy,
that's never happened. So it's essentially the way that this looks.
Or chewing gum, like me.
In our mind is basically having a master of ceremonies who will come up, do the welcome at the beginning of the events. Hey, how you doing? Thanks for being here. This is our goal. Then you get into a live auction where this MC or master of ceremonies helps describe packages, hands off to the auctioneer then sells packages, and then bounces back to the MC. That is traditionally what we recommend. The reason that we recommend that is because of the back and forth and cadence that the auctioneer and MC get into when they're delivering the items and selling the items, right? So what we bump into very often is you have somebody in the community that's like, hey, I'm a volunteer, I'm going to be filling as this MC role, what does that mean? Well, if your auctioneer is of caliber, then they're going to be able to come into that room and work with that MC, which is what we're discussing here, how best to set up that MC, and bounce off of that individual to present a good show, right? So some of our tricks to getting those MCs up is looking at timeline. What is your timeline? When do you want to end? And how are you going to manage those fundraising hours that you're sharing in a room, right? If you're at a school and everybody's there from 4 to 8 o'clock that night, you only have those 4 hours to raise funds or hold the event. Therefore, everything has to happen within 4 to 8, or you have people going home because you're not done and it's 9:30 all of a sudden, and there's a knock-on effect.
And your MC can push people.
The second biggest thing I think that you're looking for in an MC is somebody that can live in the moment and shoot from the hip. In other words, you want them entertaining, you don't want them dry and overthinking every word. Okay, for them to get up, to your point, Kelly, and read word for word what each item is, this is not going to be a well-delivered speech whatsoever. Like, they're not going to connect with their people. So in order for that person to be effective in this environment, they need to know what's happening, know what the next step is, but be in the moment enough to roll with the punches and provide that entertainment. Because you watch comedians do it all the time. They roll into a room with a bunch of jokes written down and they're ready to execute. There's also a whole different type of comedian that can come in with their jokes in mind and improv their way through the entire night. Same thing is true here. You're looking for an individual to serve as your MC who can improv, but is not so over the top that people are going to roll their eyes, right?
The right guy or gal is going to play off the mood of the audience,
Yeah.
and they're going to adjust their delivery to the tone of the event.
Exactly right.
Right?
Exactly
And let's say you're kind of pushed into an MC that you wouldn't have chosen. That can happen too.
That happens more often than not.
More often
actually,
than not, and that's because so-and-so's uncle is this, or and all the politics of any gala that we all know happen. At that point, the training is even stronger on that, and it just goes to the basics. Nope, you take less. You give them less to do.
Yeah, for sure.
I had this experience, another story if I could tell, this event I've been doing for years, where we changed into a new MC and the personality could not be the more complete opposite than mine. You guys know how I am on the stage, right? And the MC was like, I'd be coming out, hey, sold, and the MC'd come on, okay, next item. We're going to take a trip to Hawaii, and it looks like no airfare, nope, no airfare. And you
can't go on these dates, so...
Oh, and it just felt like it was a roller coaster ride. So consider that also personality, matching up two similar personalities.
That goes back to the momentum, right? Like you want to establish the momentum with that MC where you can kind of bounce back and forth and keep it moving. If that auction had like 3 items, you're going to be okay. If that item has 6, or if that auction has 60 items, you're hosed.
You're done.
Because you're starting and stopping all night and you're going for 8 hours, which you'd rather not do. So, that's a pretty good experiment. Do you have any MC stories?
I do have one. It was a long time ago, and we were in Connecticut, and it was, he's since passed. But he was an actor, and he was...
I was so ready to laugh at the story, and you're like, oh, by the way, he's passed.
He is passed. So I'm not going to give his name because that would
Don't worry, it gets better, folks.
But he had been drinking, but he was a movie star, so it was, a thing. And he would announce the item. My husband is trying to move this auction along, right? And he'd say, well, there's 6 tickets to this basketball game. Who wants to go to basketball? Why? Just go home and watch it. You can drink, watch it in your underwear. Why go to the basketball game? But I guess since you have to, go ahead and bid on it. And he did that all night long. Oh, no. So I went over to him, and famous people don't really do much for me. So I went over to him and I just said, hey, man, we got to lift these items up, So if you don't have something to say about them that's good, don't say anything outside of this. So the next item comes up and he goes, well, yeah, that gal over there that's yelling doesn't want me to tell you anything bad about it. And I'm like, oh, Lord, okay.
Oh, no.
So, that being said, you kind of have to dance a little bit light about that. But yeah, he did.
For sure. I did, it was last fall. I did an event where I was going into school. I had not served the school before, so it was my first time serving as their auctioneer. And they had a new principal. And this individual was replacing a principal that had been there for like 15 years, right? So she gets in there, and I'm talking to her during the silent auction. We're just kind of getting a feel for one another, getting ready for the night. And she had a few drinks. So then we get to the stage, and she knocks it out of the park. She opens the night, kind of introduces herself. Like, this is her grand entrance into the community, right? And she is parking it. People are laughing, buying into it. So then she leaves the stage, another speaker comes up, and then she proceeds to go on for another 30 minutes or so. And all of a sudden people are like, okay, time to move on, next thing. So we go through. individual continues to drink, right? And as the night goes on, just gets more and more intoxicated, to the point where I said, sold $5,000. And I think one of the comments was, wow, that's a lot for an ice cream package. Like moments like that, right? So then we finish up like all of our items and we get to the fund and eat, right? And the fund and eat is where we ask for public donations. And she decides to go off script and bring up another individual who we had not talked to over the course of the night, had no idea who this guy was. He was obviously influential in the community, but she basically took that script or timeline and threw it out the window. So it was a colorful night.
Yeah.
It was a colorful night. Great people, great individual. I really enjoyed working with the group and that individual, and I hope to go back and work with them again. But maybe cut down on the alcohol intake a little bit.
And I guess I would end that idea. I know. I would end that idea, and then we'll hear his funny story. But I would, you know what? You can't control everything that happens at an auction.
No, you cannot.
For sure.
Yeah.
And you can spend all your time picking the right people, whether they be a professional or a volunteer. If they trip up, they're going to trip up. So what you need to do as the person that maybe invited them to come be your MC is, be a duck and let it just roll off your back. Have faith in your auction team that you bring on, that they will know how to handle this MC. Because I'm telling you right now, if it's me and Mark, we're not just going to throw our hands up and say, well, you hired him, or, well, that's your friend. We're not going to do that,
Yeah.
We want the organization to succeed.
When you're trying to do what's best for the show.
And we're trying to do what's best for the show and keep it moving and keep people feeling good. And you don't want people to leave there feeling bad about this person either.
That's true. That's a good point.
And Paul mentioned this earlier in this conversation, but let's call a spade a spade. Some of these people that want the microphone shouldn't have the microphone, right? They want to talk about themselves. This is how great I am. We've been doing these virtual events.
It's like open
We've
mic
seen
at a
some
wedding. Don't do
videos
it.
where people come in and talk about themselves for 10 minutes on a virtual event where it's like, the goal is to raise money for the school. And you're talking about...
Did you ever say the ABC school at all?
Yeah, so I mean, like all that to say, whoever you choose as your MC, you're going to learn from, right? You're going to figure out what attributes work, what don't. If you're a volunteer and you're nervous about being an MC, be yourself and don't overthink it. Like enjoy the ride, enjoy the process, and worry less about what everybody's thinking of you, because quite honestly, if you're at a fundraising event, people are carrying on and having side conversations and might not be listening to you the whole time anyway. So lean in.
And most of those people would be like, geez, I'm glad it's not me up there. I mean, it's hard to get up there and do what it is these people do.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that.
Right.
It's very difficult. So you got to have a lot of confidence in yourself to do it. If I could just end on the importance of finding somebody that has a direct tie, if you're going to go with a volunteer,
great idea,
to your organization.
Yep.
A direct tie. And I have found through my experience that especially when we're teeing up the highlight of your event, which is hopefully your fund and eat, your paddle raise, that person can really, really set it up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This particular father,
great call,
and his daughter was the cutest little thing, just a cute. In fact, she drew me a little picture while the auction was going on and gave it to me. I still have it in my office. Just this little picture of me standing there with a microphone. She drew it with a little pencil. Cutest thing. But he teed up this fund and need. We were going to hear from one of the teachers, and then they were going to bring in a family. And the way he teed it up, because he's got personal feelings, and he is personally tied to this organization.
That's powerful.
He didn't even need to read a script. It all came directly from his heart.
Yeah, and like speaking of, I don't know that school in particular, but if you are a religious-based organization and you go to church consistently, like a lot of those people in the community are moved to speak the word, and they can also
if you go
use
to
those.
church consistently.
Okay, that probably wasn't the best word.
Consistently.
Insert foot into mouth.
I did have
Not
one
just
more
go to
thing
church,
to add.
but consistently.
Okay, well,
We can cut this out later, but I did an auction where it was a really super fun auction. I always say this, I've been doing this one for years, but there's only a few that I have that on.
Well, you are a stud.
And everybody gets pretty loose with the alcohol, and they had this mystery box, and inside of the mystery box was this little cylinder-looking thing. It looked like a ball, and you had to buy, it was like $20, and then you had to bring it to your table. Don't open it. You bought it when you came in, put it on your table. me and the MC will tell you when to open it. So the MC gets up there and he's like, all right, everybody, open your box and pull your balls out, and trying to figure out who the winner is. And I was standing right
have to
next.
cut that.
I was standing right next to him. I started doubling over, and you know what?
Awesome.
It set the tone for the rest of the night. We had a
Absolutely.
super fun night. So you just never know when things like that are going to happen. You just roll with it.
You do. You roll with it and
roll
make
with
it fun, because
Yeah.
that's the best part of it.
Yeah, and honestly, if you're watching this and you still have questions about what an MC should look like, give us a call or shoot us an email. Either way, you can see it in the description. But know that we appreciate you being with us on this wonderful cast. And if you want more, you can follow us on Facebook. There's a video version of this cast posted to our YouTube page, so you can check that out. Please subscribe, like, and comment on the video if you have anything to share. Or, as mentioned, if you'd rather send us an email, you can email us at auction@stokesauctiongroup.com.
Church consistent.
Church consistent. If you'd like to leave us a review, please do so. We appreciate all the reviews. Our music is Brighter Days by Mixard. A big thank you to them. We appreciate you joining us this week.
Hey, everybody, go out. Be bold.
Be healthy.
And do good.
Bye.
Thank you.
See ya.
We out.